Simple laws to protect certain types of trees have been around since colonial times. It wasn't until 1862, with the creation of the Department of Agriculture, that a national effort started to protect the nation's agricultural health in response to the damage the gold rush had on forests and land. In 1881, a division of forestry was created, and years later, in 1889, the Department of Agriculture was raised to cabinet level, commencing preservation of forests nationwide. The period after 1960 was one of debate and conflict. What are now known as the Timber Wars saw much discussion over the main issue on how and for what purposes federal forests should be managed. Forest management faces the economic issue to either use federal managed forests for its abundant amounts of goods that can be produced, such as oil and gas drilling, logging, and paper, or to preserve the 3.5 million acres of forest and the 76 threatened and endangered species in California. 12 to 16 million years ago, the Mojave Desert was similar to an African savanna with exotic animals that don't live here anymore. California's natives painted ancient figures and shapes onto the walls of painted rock in the Carrizo Plains, showing their rich cultural heritage. Land management faces many economic factors, such as urbanization and industrialization, which can become an issue when trying to maintain healthy land in California. Healthy and sustainable land will be beneficial in the future to either the environment or the economy. Not using land resources efficiently will cause the various purposes that use land management, for instance, organic agriculture and ecotourism projects, to have a negative outcome, therefore affecting the economy. A social issue of land management is that all public land is controlled mostly by the decisions of the Bureau of Land Management. Therefore, the people who live and are familiar with the area have little to no say with how the land resources are used. The amount of wildfires in the western side of the United States has increased by 400% since the 1970s. The fire season is 2 months longer now than it was in 1970. The wildfire season in California is now year-round. Every month since 2012, there has been at least one fire. Presumably, the increase of wildfires is due to heat waves caused by climate change, according to the National Academy of Science in 2016. California's largest wildfire in terms of acres burnt is the Mendocino Complex in July 2018, along with the Thomas Fire in December 2017. The deadliest and most destructive wildfire in California is the Camp Fire.
California wildfires has claimed 56 lives, 10,317 structures, almost more than 140,000 acres burned, and about $234 million.
There are a few unintended consequences of land management or forestry management in California. Some of the major ones include the lives of workers, employers, and families, employment and wages, and the effects of the local labor markets. Employment tends to increase, as well as wages, due to the extra work that is needed in order to restabilize the towns. While that is good for a short-term amount of time, in the long term, the local labor markets will begin to become unstable. This can cause ups and downs in the market system, and therefore it will become unpredictable and a threat. This can cause wages to fluctuate as well as employment, which is not ideal in any of the scenarios. There are also side effects to these labor markets being affected, such as tourism and natural resources that will be in danger. There are many places among California, as well as all over the world, that depend on tourism as a steady part of income for the year. Along with tourism, natural resources can also be destroyed or stripped of their values. These natural resources could be vital need to some communities. The counties or towns that take the biggest hits from the wildfires are the rural places that are resource dependent. Fires can also have positive effects on the community and the environment. Fires that are low in intensity and do not grow out of control can actually benefit our lands and can create a vital survival area for certain species. One way that fires can help is by removing low-growing brush that needs to be removed, by cleaning the forest floors of debris, by opening up the forest into sunlight, and by nourishing the soil. Clearing brush from the forest floors with low-intensity flames can help prevent large damaging wildfires that spread out of control and completely destroy the forest. This is also a good reason why there should be controlled burns put on by the fire department every so often, so that way when a wildfire starts, it stays on low intensity and doesn't completely wipe out the forest. Of course, there are still some negative effects of fire. In the year 2017, over 505,000 acres were burned in the Thomas Fire of December. Wildfires can cause devastating damage. In 2015, it was estimated that wildfires caused around $14.2 billion in damage in the United States. Every wildfire is unique, and so is its impact on its individual properties. Properties may be completely burned, partially burned, or not burned at all, but all these damages impact society on an individual level, and its impact on society as a whole. Wildfires have the ability to change the makeup of community and alter marketplaces. After a wildfire, well-developed communities and marketplaces will typically try and rebuild. This rebuilding period introduces opportunity. Concerning the real estate market, buyers may begin to look into purchasing properties at discounts, and developers may seek to redevelop communities. With varying emissions, the smoke comes from a lot of different fuel sources, including mature trees, dried leaves, forest litter, and unfortunately, local homes. Short-term exposures to intense smoke can lead to lung and cardiovascular problems in some people, especially if they are already susceptible to these diseases. Longer-term exposure, or over a few days or weeks, increases the risk and chance of health impacts as your cumulative dose increases. Eventually, rainfall will clean all this pollution from the atmosphere, but that can take days or even weeks. In the meantime, these pollutants can travel thousands of miles. That means air pollution from wildfires may threaten people who are far downwind.
As California seems to experience hotter temperatures and more frequent drought conditions, we will learn to plant more drought-tolerant tree species to cause those. The fire also had environmental groups worrying about home protection, and that we needed to improve protection for our homes and doing more to reduce fire dangers for those in the wildland urban places. This includes more forest treatments, from prescribed burning to thinning and harvesting projects.